Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on this webinar with Kubrick. My name is Fern and I'm part of the Student Success team at Target Jobs. And I'm really excited to be joined by the team from Kubrick today who are going to be talking a bit more about their company, what they do and who they are as well. Just a few housekeeping rules. If you guys have any questions, then please feel free to pop them into the question tab, and the team from Kubrick are going to be talking through them and going over them at the end as well during a Q&A session. But for now, I'm going to pass over to Selva, who's going to start things off.
Thanks, Fern. Hi, everyone. Thanks for everyone for joining. We're excited to have you all here. I am Selva. I am a resource manager here at Kubrick. We also have Holly Smith, Amy Aspinall, and Holly Ellis on the call that you'll be hearing very shortly from in a second. Ladies, do you want to just introduce yourselves very briefly in terms of what you do at Kubrick? Amy, I'll hand over to you first.
Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy. I'm a senior associate here at Kubrick as part of the Kubrick Advanced teams. I help to kind of lead teams, build different data products on kind of project-based work, anything from kind of data visualization tools to data science tools. Kind of a range of all different things.
Thank you. Holly Smith, I'll hand over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Holly. I'm a data management and governance associate principal as a member of the training team at Kubrick. So I'm involved in training up some of our new consultants that come in and go through our kind of 4-month training across both the US and the UK.
Thank you. And Holly, over to you.
Thank you. So I'm Holly Ellis. I joined Kubrick about a year ago now, so I'm 6 months into my consultancy journey working as a data product consultant. Sort of at the beginning of my journey in comparison to the other two. Thank you.
Thank you. So a bit of background on me. As I mentioned, I'm a resource manager at Kubrick. I've been at Kubrick for 4 years. Started off in the recruitment team in the London office and spent the last 2.5 years in the US office. Recently moved back to London. So all very exciting. In this session, I'm going to be telling you a little bit more about Kubrick and what we do. And then I'm going to be passing over to our panelists, Holly, and Amy, who will be telling you a bit more about their journeys at Kubrick, so you can get a first-hand account on what it's like to kickstart your career in data and in AI with us. Following their stories, we will be hosting a Q&A session. So any questions that you might have for each of the panelists, please feel free to put them in the chat or the questions box, and we will be answering them towards the end. So let's get started. So who are we? I appreciate you may not have heard of us before, or you might not know much about us. We are an award-winning data and AI consultancy that exists to unlock potential and accelerates careers, enabling organizations to realize their value through technology. Since we were founded in 2016, to paint you a bit of picture, we've trained and hired over 1,500 consultants across the UK and the US. We've also won multiple awards, including being listed in the Times Top 100 Graduate Employers, the Best Graduate Employer for Women by Women in Tech, and the Best Graduate Employer by Data IQ, due to our ongoing commitment to development and creating career opportunities in the tech sector. Here is a little bit about our clients. So a range of over 130 global organizations across different industries that we've helped realize the potential of data and AI. You've got some really big names here, including BP, Unilever, British Airways, Morgan Stanley. And here you can see some of the technology partners that we work with, who see us as a key delivery partner on driving adoption, realizing value, and through which our consultants can upskill and get qualifications and accreditations with. Again, some really big names like Microsoft, AWS, Google Cloud, Databricks, and Calibra. Over the course of your journey as a consultant at Kubrick, you have all of this to look forward to. So upon joining, you undertake 4 months of salary training. You then are guaranteed a placement with one of our esteemed clients following training, and you do that for 2 years. You get dedicated support via our success team. You get access to a network of thought leaders, experts, and like-minded professionals, and then ongoing opportunities to progress and rapid career acceleration too. Here you can see some examples of different career pathways that our consultants get at Kubrick. And this is something that you can pursue following the initial 2 years working on client site and the training that you do. Some consultants might join their client permanently. Some progress into more experienced or senior consultant roles. Some join our Kubrick Advanced team, and some become associate principals too. All are slightly different, and we will be hearing more about some of these pathways when we hear the stories from our panelists. Here you can see our values. So following on from our career pathways, our values are the foundation upon which we build relationships, we make decisions and drive innovation at Kubrick. We also look for all of these qualities in our people, and they are the ethos that defines us. Here I've also listed some of the DEI initiatives that we're really proud of at Kubrick. We have different communities and networks that any Kubrick employee can get involved in, join, contribute to. And these include our Elevate network for women and non-binary employees, our Working Parents network, Diversity Champions, LGBT Kubrick Plus network, and mental health first aiders as well. Okay, so now I'm going to hand over to Holly, who will be introducing themselves again and tell you a bit more about their Kubrick journey.
Thanks, Elva. So yeah, as I said, I'm Holly. I joined Kubrick in November 2023 as part of the data product stream. So prior to joining at Kubrick, my experience working in data was quite limited, and I studied business at university, so I hadn't really had much experience with data, but I did, however, complete an introductory course to Python programming whilst I was at university. So this sort of really sparked my interest for working in data. So when it sort of came to looking for graduate jobs, because my experience was quite limited in working with data, I knew I wanted to find an opportunity that had some sort of formal training, which is how I came across Kubrick. So I started training sort of end of last year, and over the 15 weeks we covered lots of topics, with some of the key ones, sort of SQL and Python, your sort of project delivery, data governance, and with each of these topics we had some form of assessment. So for your sort of data governance and project delivery, these are in the form of sort of multiple choice assessments, whereas with your sort of more core technical capabilities like SQL and Python, these are through the form of like a formed assessment. So when I sort of heard about the assessments when I joined, I was a bit nervous because I didn't have much experience in data, but our trainers at Kubrick are amazing, and they do everything possible to make sure that you pass your exams. So one of my trainers, Richard, took me through my training for SQL over the 2 weeks, and I think most days he would stay behind at the end of the day and even log on at the weekends to sort of help my cohort and help myself with our practice papers. So I think there's lots of support, which is really great. But it's not just your trainers at Kubrick. I think you're also sort of training alongside maybe 20 to 30 other consultants. And during your time, you sort of work on many group projects. For example, I think Wednesday Wisdom is a sort of presentation opportunity that Kubrick put on. So each Wednesday, you and your small group will work together to come up with a presentation topic of your choice, that is in relation to data and AI, and then you get to sort of work together and build relationships and then present this back to your cohort. So it's a really great opportunity to make some relationships and get to work with some different people in your cohort. And you also have your consultant success managers at Kubrick. So these are sort of some key people who sort of check in with you. They're there to sort of support you with any issues or struggles that you might have. And I think sort of towards the end of your training, your CSMs are also sort of your key people who actually help you find your client placement. And this, they might do this. So, for example, we have lots of companies in different industries, so they might help you select what industries you'd like to work with, also help you build your CV and any interview preparation. So I know during the allocation process, my CSM Connor, I think I had around 3 interviews in total, and this was across different clients. But for each of these, he would put in meetings with me. We'd go over the job requirements, and he'd also actually put in some mock interviews. So really try and help me prepare as best as I could for my client site, which was great. And so this sort of allocation process for me, I think took place on bench. So a lot of consultants will experience a period of bench, which is the period. So once you've sort of completed your training and you're sort of waiting to be allocated to your client site. So this period of time is a great opportunity for you to prepare for your interviews and also upskill. So for myself, I've spent some of this time upskilling in Google Cloud Platform and also in SQL, as I knew these were sort of key requirements from my client. So that was great. But also, I think the great thing about Kubrick is that your support and development doesn't just stop once you've sort of finished your 15 weeks of training. It's I think there's quite a big focus at Kubrick on sort of personal and professional development throughout your journey. And there's lots of opportunities for you to develop yourself at each stage of your journey. So I think I'm sort of 6 months into my placement with my placement at BT. So once I hit my 8-month mark, Kubrick will actually fund consultants to take part in an accreditation of your choice, which is again a great opportunity for you to expand your skill set and maybe pursue different types of roles in the future. So for myself, as I mentioned, I'm currently working as a data product consultant, which is a bit softer compared to some of the more technical roles, such as a data engineer. But I would sort of personally at the minute working towards the Google Cloud Platform data engineering accreditation, so that when I do reach my 8 months, I'll be able to sort of take on that accreditation, which would be great. But Kubrick are also partnered with lots of other organisations, and one of which is Women in Data. They have lots of opportunities for you to get involved in. So I've actually just taken on part of a program with Women in Data. So it's a Peer Connect program, which is sort of a 6-month mentorship program. But I wouldn't have been able to get that opportunity if I wasn't at Kubrick, which is really great. So yeah, I think there's lots of opportunity and lots of potential for Kubrick consultants to sort of develop themselves and continue their development. So yeah, I think that's everything from me. I'll pass over to Holly.
Thanks, Holly. So, hi everyone, I'm Holly Smith. Like I said earlier, I am currently an associate principal at Kubrick, but I started kind of my time with Kubrick in August 2020, so just over 4 years now. And I did initially come on as a consultant as well, as kind of all of us have in this. And so I did my 2 years as a data management consultant. So the 15 weeks of training, much like Holly did. And then I spent my time on client site with Unilever, doing kind of some back-end work in Databricks, so more of a kind of data engineering role, where I was owning a lot of the incoming data that they had, doing a lot of data manipulation, using kind of Python and SQL in my day-to-day, getting to do dashboarding and really enjoyed the role. But as I came kind of towards the end of my 2 years, got kind of more in touch with Kubrick again and talking to some of my old trainers and started to think about, you know, did I want to stay on full time or did I want to look at something else? And was introduced to the associate principal role, and liked the idea of expanding kind of the breadth of areas that I could look into and not only work on what previously for me had been a lot of back end work, but starting to get into the more process driven side of a lot of what I'd done. So decided to kind of take a look at the role, and eventually kind of came in as an associate principal. So as I said, currently I'm an associate principal in the area of data management and data governance. So we sit within the training team, and essentially all of us within the training team will have different kind of areas of specialism. Some people sit in kind of the Python space and data engineering generally. We have people in kind of data science, Gen AI, advanced analytics, data product. So we all have our kind of special focus points. And I wanted to get more kind of experience looking deeply into some of those areas in data management and expand kind of my breadth of knowledge and SME base. So I currently train areas like personal data protection and GDPR. I do data modeling, data warehousing. I've done a bit of data quality. So we cover kind of a fair few different topics. But I spend about 50% maybe of my time training. I've trained people both in the UK and in the US. We have our US consultants kind of coming over to the UK to do their training now, which is quite exciting. So we have a few over at the minute that we're getting to train. So I spend about 50% of my time training people in these areas, which is always quite fun, looking at new ways to get people involved, to kind of hark back to what we learned right at the beginning, but look at kind of building out a lot of those areas that we look into with some of our own experience. So it's quite nice to be able to use those 2 years on client site that I had to build into what we're now teaching, to make sure that people are used to or kind of ready for going on to site and what they're going to do. But it's not kind of all I spend my time doing. It's quite nice that my role is actually quite diverse. So like I said, about 50% of the time will be training. And then the rest of the time we get involved in kind of other areas. So like Holly mentioned, we have something called a bench. So while our consultants have finished training and they're waiting to get placed, they stay in our bench area, and also sometimes if they are rotating through clients. But we don't want people to kind of sit there and not be able to do anything, or get bored, or not feel like they're developing at the same time. So we want them to have lots of kind of lots of opportunity to continue to develop and get new experiences. So a couple of the things that we do are running upskilling sessions. So we have some in things like Databricks. As Selva mentioned, Databricks is one of our kind of partners. We do a lot of work with them, and they're very big in the data space. A lot of our clients use them. So we have a big connect with Databricks, and we have trainers who kind of specialize in that area. So we have opportunities for people to upskill there. I've just run one on data modeling, so people can continue to broaden their areas of expertise, and it's quite nice to be able to kind of bring in people who have been on client site and have their own experience with that, and are maybe rotating and see their point of view and then understand how it's worked for them, and continue to be able to enrich the training that we give back with people's kind of new ideas and new experiences as well. But we also have kind of mini projects that we run whilst people are on bench. So I project manage one and work as a solution architect for another, which again heavily uses Databricks. So it's quite nice, and part of why I quite like the role is I also not only train but get that experience of being able to project manage something that we have going on internally, and also provide my expertise as a solution architect. So I still get some of that kind of technical exposure as well. I'm still getting involved on that side. I'm not just kind of only teaching. So I'm getting that front end and still some of that back end experience, which is really quite nice. And we get to know the consultants on our projects quite well. They're in the position that I was a few years ago. So it's quite nice to be able to kind of help them on that journey and answer all of the questions that maybe I had at that point in time, and see where, I can come in and support them. So that's really good. And then I also get kind of opportunities to work on other both internal and external pieces. So Holly mentioned Women in Data. We do a lot of work with them. And I'm quite lucky to have been involved in some of that as well. I've been on a couple webinars with women in data as well. One probably more so a year ago, talking about data and AI governance and the kind of need for governance on AI. It's quite a big topic at the minute for everyone. And just this week, actually, I was involved in a webinar for Women in Data's WID Week for their kind of 10th anniversary, where we talked about a project that I've been involved in there. So there's still a lot of opportunity to get involved in those kind of external pieces as well. And then we take some of that back and again, kind of enrich the training material with it. So it's a really nice circle that we get to keep building upon what people are using based on our experience, and make sure that everything is as relevant as possible, which with the kind of pace of everything feels like a necessity. So it's really nice to be able to build into that process and see our experience come into what our consultants are learning ongoing. So I've really enjoyed being a part of that kind of that growth and that kind of helping and support of our new consultants. Having been through the process myself, it feels quite nice to be able to kind of give back there. But yeah, I think that's kind of it for me.
Thank you, Holly. I'll pass over to Amy now.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I had a very, I would say, unnatural, I suppose, kind of route into the whole data industry. And before I joined Kubrick, I ended up kind of doing a lot of traveling and odd jobs for about 3 years. So I ended up doing some really cool things like volunteering abroad, and I taught English in Thailand for a year and a bit. And then after that, I went traveling Southeast Asia and just had like the best time. But when I came back from that, I'd picked up kind of like odd jobs. Like I would work in bars, I'd work in restaurants. I was obviously teaching English as well. I did a little bit of web content and analysis for a travel company. So through that, I thought, oh, this whole like analysis thing is fun. Like it kind of like quells my thirst for curiosity and kind of figuring things out. And then was also a yoga teacher as well for a little bit. So for 3 years after university, I kind of thought, oh my God, I don't know what I want to do with myself. I've tried all these different things. I've done all these kind of fun things, but now I kind of think I need to do something. I suppose I had a bit of a panic of what am I doing with my professional career? And I wanted to do something that would really ground me somewhere as well. So I didn't really feel like I wanted something that was going to keep me, I suppose, interested and move to a bigger city. So I kind of was looking at like, do I want to move to Manchester or London or Leeds or something a bit more outside of my comfort zone? And yeah, I kind of came upon, I suppose, leaning into the whole analytical, curious kind of nature. I stumbled upon Kubrick Group. And by this point as well, I'd obviously been out of uni for like 3 years, and I thought, oh my God, no grad scheme is going to take me. And it's been too long now. I'm kind of past it, and no one's going to take me seriously. But I saw Kubrick Group, and it wasn't necessarily, you didn't necessarily have to be a graduate or a particularly fresh graduate as well. So because they were going to train you up in the skills needed for this kind of career. So it kind of became this kind of perfect storm of, right, it's got that kind of analysis nature that I want. It's something fun and innovative, and the whole tech industry is something exciting. It's an opportunity in London. So it seems amazing. The only thing that was putting me off at the time was like, oh my God, it's a 2-year commitment, and am I going to really be able to commit to something for 2 years? But 5.5 years later, I'm still here, still loving it. So obviously it was the right decision. But yeah, and in July 2019, I started my training. So I did a data product training similar to Holly as well. One of the biggest things as well for me was obviously I didn't really have much money to my name. I'd been traveling, doing little jobs here and there. I come from a lower socioeconomic background. I don't have parents or family who can really lend me any money. So again, this is 2019 when it was pre-COVID, everything was in person. So I had to physically be in the office for training, which is totally different to now. But I needed something that was going to obviously pay me for any training, which Kubrick does. So that was an absolute lifeline at the time, and without that I wouldn't have been able to really get into this kind of career. So super like thankful for that as an opportunity, because I just wouldn't be here otherwise. But yeah, we did all sorts. What kind of Holly was mentioning earlier, we did SQL, Python, data visualization, data management, a bit of like product management. And then after that, I did my 2 years as a core consultant. So I did 3 different projects within that. My first project was at John Lewis, and I was helping to kind of analyze different customer data there, help them make better informed decisions based on what kind of customer base they had, help them understand the customer. And then COVID hit in 2020, and we got moved off that project and into a completely different project. Whereas when I was at John Lewis and I was on my own as a Kubrick consultant, blending into a different team of all these kind of John Lewis permanent staff, the next project was for an insurance client, and I was actually part of a blended squad. So I was part of about 10 of us, all going through like a similar kind of experience where, you know, we were starting this new project together. We could all help each other out in terms of like, what does this mean for this? We were able to, like, as a team, help, drive and deliver this project really well. And that was a data migration project. So I kind of became more experienced here in my data visualization, data modeling. I did a lot of advanced like DAX calculations in Power BI and things like that, and got really into my data visualization, data storytelling work there. After that project, I did M&G Investment, which is financial services client. And then I kind of came up to my end of my 2-year contract and was thinking, okay, like what's the next step here? What do I want to do? I've done this 2 years has magically kind of flown by now. What are the kind of the next options? And you can go into, you can rotate onto a different project. So that's a senior consultant, like a 3rd-year consultant, and do similar kind of project-based work. Or you can become an associate principal like Holly, get into the training world. And then the other option, obviously you can go as well and find other options, but the other option at Kubrick is a team called Kubrick Advanced. And what we do in Kubrick Advanced is we lead projects, leading teams of core consultants, and we're kind of head up a different project, and we'll be the key kind of contact point between the client and your project team, and you get to assign tasks, kind of develop your leadership skills, develop technically as well in a particular area you want to go to, but you're also kind of part of a team where you've got a support network of other Kubrick Advanced consultants doing these kinds of projects. So I suppose, yeah, the kind of promise of this, okay, I'd really love to develop in my leadership skills. You can develop technically as well. So we get an extra 20 days a year of development days. So you can use those days throughout the year to take a couple of days of training. We get all of our certifications paid for as well, which is really, really useful. And you also get the more of a flexibility here of trying out new projects. So you've got a little bit more, I'd say, seniority in, okay, I know what I've done before, I know what I'm good at. So excuse me, you've got a bit more flexibility there. Excuse me.
Thank you, Amy. We'll just give her a minute.
Oh my God, yeah, like I was gonna say I'm just a lot yapping. Oh God, yeah, actually give me a sec.
That's fine. We'll give Amy a minute. In the meantime, I will be opening up the Q&A session in just a second. So if you do have any questions for any of the panelists, feel free to put them in the chat or the question box. It could be directed at one person in particular, I could open it up to the panel, to all three, so you get the different perspectives. So any questions that you have, please let me know. And I guess in the meantime as well, we also have training start dates throughout 2025. So if you like some of the opportunity and joining Kubrick, I will be sharing an application link towards the end of the meeting, the webinar.
Thanks, Alva. I think it's the aircon in here that's like just tickling my throat a little bit. Yeah, so I can kind of go through a few of my projects I've done at Kubrick Advanced. So you get the opportunity to really like lead up the teams here. So the kind of projects I've done here have been a bit more, obviously having a bit more responsibility now, because you've got to be in charge of this team, you've got to assign the tasks, you've got to deal with really demanding stakeholders, be that kind of, I'd say the communication between the business needs and the technical needs of the project as well. So there's a lot of building your communication skills, your leadership skills, your kind of risk and like awareness skills, like commercially, as well as keeping some of your like technical development and I suppose just like confidence as well in leading projects. So I've worked with I've done projects for OpenReach, I've done projects for Jaguar Land Rover, and then other kind of financial services clients like PaySafe. So yeah, like had really kind of amazing opportunities there to deliver really high impact data products that have really helped to support kind of be key like business stakeholders and areas, and kind of being able to watch them actually inform leadership's decisions is usually really exciting as well. But I suppose on a whole, apart from like all the different projects and the flexibility and the kind of breadth of skills and experience you get to uncover as being a Kubrick Advanced consultant, you've also got a really, really good team culture as well. So like I said, that we're a team of advanced consultants. We've got that support network that we actually help each other a lot in terms of if I've say got an issue with the client and I'm like, has anyone ever done this before? Have anyone ever used this technology before, these tools? I can go back into my team and either just vent to them and ask for support, or someone else has had that experience before and I'm able to lean on them for help in that sense as well. And it's also additionally just like a super social team as well. I think I've been really fortunate across my career at Kubrick to make some really amazing like friends for life. So yeah, it's been lovely. And then other kind of really cool opportunities I've been able to do at Kubrick is to speak at events. I've been able to speak at Big Data London and Women in Data. So yeah, it's been able to open up doors that might not have been accessible to me, or maybe as fast. It's been able to kind of accelerate those opportunities as well. So yeah, that's my story.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Amy. I am now going to begin the Q&A session. I can see some questions coming through already, which is great. I'm going to start off by answering some of the kind of recruitment questions, and then I'll open up to the panelists for other questions and get their perspective on them. So just in terms of the assessments to get onto the program, so I guess in terms of like what we look for in consultants before you begin at Kubrick, the recruitment process is quite straightforward. We initially get you to apply. We ask you to complete some online assessments. So you do a logic and problem solving test. You do a metric test, which assesses how you apply commercial awareness to different kinds of business scenarios, and a video interview that you answer a few questions about yourself and record yourself doing that. And then you have an interview with one of us in the resourcing team. Another question was asked, how can you best prepare to join Kubrick? I don't know if maybe one of the panelists can answer that and maybe give some pointers in terms of what candidates can do to join Kubrick and how they can prepare.
I don't mind going, maybe I'm probably the most recent. But yeah, as Selva just mentioned, you have, so your technical, I think you have the assessment, so your the problem solving type part of your interview. So I would just say, I know online there are quite a lot of sites that offer like free tests that you can do, the psychological reasoning, and those sorts of things. I would recommend maybe doing some of those. But yeah, I think the interviews, I thought it was quite straightforward compared to a lot of other graduate employers. So yeah, I don't think it's anything to worry too much about. As long as you sort of know why you're applying and you are sort of keen for the opportunity, I think you should be fine. So yeah.
I think as well what can be quite useful, or is especially if you know what it is that you like about it, is going and seeing what interests you out in kind of the data and AI space at the minute, and finding there's examples everywhere. So kind of looking into some of what's going on and things that interest you or that you've heard about makes kind of for good conversations and interviews, but also kind of a nice focus point and something to talk about. So I found kind of that as well. I mean, it was a bit longer, more of a while ago when I applied. So the process has changed slightly, but yeah, going and having a look at what the data space looked like at the time really helped kind of tie in the relevance of kind of the role and what I was applying for.
Great, thank you. And then we have a question around kind of projects that consultants typically work on. I know that someone asked about machine learning with a machine learning focus, but I don't know if maybe Holly or Amy, you could give some flavor in that in terms of the type of projects that you can work on.
Yeah, so unfortunately I don't teach in the machine learning space, so I have less of an idea of some of them, but we do, one of our training areas is Gen AI or an advanced analytics. So we have, sections where people will go into machine learning, but we've, one of my kind of fellow associate principals has recently been working on a project with women in data and UCL kind of collaborating with one another. And we had some consultants that she was kind of leading in getting involved in that as well while they were on the bench. So they were essentially looking at conducting a kind of systematic review on the sex bias in machine learning studies on lupus. And systematic reviews are kind of their scholarly literature reviews. So they look at synthesizing the extent to which a large volume of academic papers will provide evidence in support of a topic. And they play a really kind of key role in the research and policy making side, but they're really quite kind of laborious. So her, like Morella and the consultants she was working with were looking on building a customized kind of Gen AI solution that would automatically kind of conduct kind of one of the longer parts of it, which was reading a really large amount of papers and evaluating them against kind of a set of criteria. They had 12 that they were looking at that kind of looked at whether or not sex bias had been addressed in kind of an ML workflow, and looking at machine learning best practices and were they being followed and things like that. So that was a kind of it's been a really nice like recent example of something where we've gotten people involved, some of our consultants involved in like an external kind of piece that we're getting to talk about now with women in data, and that has kind of quite a large impact on research and policy making in people's lives, and Morella and the consultants did a really kind of good job on that. But we also have now in training, in the current model of training we have 4 weeks at the end where our consultants can go through kind of a 4-week project scenario where, depending on what stream they end up in, whether it's kind of modern data platform, which is our more data engineering side, or whether it is advanced analytics, we'll have a project that is related to that area, and they'll go through kind of a mock project for 4 weeks where they're going through kind of an agile workspace and getting the experience of working in a team in that specific area.
Yeah, there's been a couple of machine learning projects that I've worked on. One was for OpenReach, which was we were building a resource planning model. So basically, they were really want to drive efficiencies in how they could actually plan their engineers to install fibre more efficiently, faster, get the right people on the job, things like that. So we helped to build a model with, I think it was built on Python with a kind of app interface as well at the front. And then I've also worked with Jaguar Land Rover. We built a pricing prediction model for vehicles. So that was to help them become a bit more dynamic, the way that Tesla is with their pricing models, which were usually quite fixed and took a lengthy amount of time to actually get to a decision on how they would price their vehicles. And we helped to reduce the time from 12 months process to 6 months, and that 6 months was more because it had to go past finance and agreements versus the actual decision making process. So yeah.
Great, thank you, Holly and Amy, for those examples in that context. I can see a few questions that have come through around start dates. So we actually have start dates throughout 2025. We have training cohorts beginning every month or so. The next one is in January. So if start dates at any point in 2025 work for you, then please do apply, and we can outline the start dates for you during the application process. I can see a few questions around location and kind of where our clients are based. One of the requirements that we have for our consultants is that we do require them to be geographically flexible across the UK, because we have clients in different locations across the country. So you might be required to move to wherever your client is. So definitely bear that in mind. And then in terms of qualifications and what we look for in candidates, we essentially require consultants to have a minimum of a 2-1 in their bachelor's degree, and this generally needs to be in a STEM subject. And then on top of that, we look for candidates that have strong communication skills, strong commercial awareness, and a creative approach to solving problems is generally what we look for. Just having a look, I see another question around do we hire just graduates, or do we have any internship opportunities? I think at the moment, most of our roles are full-time, and we do need candidates to have completed their bachelor's studies before you join Kubrick, although we have done some internships in the past. So I definitely keep an eye out on our Kubrick website and our LinkedIn page for any future opportunities to do that. What else do we have? I saw that someone asked around the different industries that we work with in terms of our client base. We do have lots of clients in the financial services sector, but we work across the board. So we have clients in retail, consumer goods, automotive, aviation. It varies a lot. So we're not really kind of siloed into one industry over others.
I would add on that as well from the data perspective. A lot of the time, don't worry too much about having any kind of background knowledge beforehand. A lot of companies will understand that you're like new to the industry, so you don't need to have, say, a financial background to work in like financial services or kind of any prior knowledge. They'll help you to understand the data, and there's also a lot to be said for not delving too much into the detail of what they're kind of going on. Like, let them be the experts in their kind of industry, and you're there to support them on a data front in the skills that they're lacking in their team.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. Panelists, feel free to jump in if I forget something. And then I can see a question around flexibility in terms of start dates and location, depending on individual circumstances. So in terms of start date, yes, we could be very flexible, just depending on your timelines. If you're successful in the process, we can get you started in a training cohort that works for you. And then we would look at an individual kind of case-by-case basis if you do have certain boundaries or limitations in terms of where you're based. So don't let the relocation requirement put you off from applying. just wait for any final questions to come through. If there is anything pressing, feel free to put them in the chat.
I was just going to add to the location one as well. I know with my cohort, everyone was from all over, and a lot of people were sort of anxious about where they were going to be located. But I would say the majority of opportunities were sort of London-based, from my experience. But that, like Selva said, there are opportunities in lots of different places. But our CSMs, if you've got personal circumstances, they are really accommodating to these. So yeah, definitely don't let it put you off applying for the opportunity.
Thank you, Holly. Any final questions that come through? I'll just wait for, in case there is anything else. I was going to mention, as we kind of wrap up the call, if you do think of any further questions after the session today, feel free to reach out to any of us on LinkedIn. We're happy to connect with people and answer any other questions that you have. And I'm happy to share a link to our website to apply if you are keen on doing so after today. Great. I think I'll leave it there. So thanks so much everyone for attending. It was great to have you all on here. And yeah, we're excited to have you on board if you are keen on applying.
Amazing. I just wanted to jump on quickly and just say a final thank you to everyone who's joined us and asked some really great questions, and also just a final thank you to Holly, Selva, Amy and Holly for joining us as well, and just giving a bit of an insight into their lives at Kubrick as well. And make sure that you do connect with them on LinkedIn, ask those questions that you might think about later that you really wish you'd asked, and kind of take a look at their website as well and at all of the kind of different things that they have available too. But for now, I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and thank you again for joining.
Thanks, Fern. Thanks everyone.
Thanks,
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.